For your chance at winning one of my finished models, head over to my Patreon page. I have a link in the description, and enter the monthly giveaway. In order to fit the new body kit components to the original Mazda body from the Tamiya kit, I needed to remove some components from that body itself. So I firstly marked it all off with a permanent black marker to know which parts I needed to remove and not forget any in this process. And then I moved on to marking all of those mold lines, which also needed to be removed with some sandpaper and some sanding sticks. And then I could move on to removing those body parts, fitting the body kit, and fixing some of the mistakes and imperfections in the body itself. With all of the mold lines now marked, I know which parts to sand off and when I can stop, as when the black marker is gone, so should the mold line itself. Now it's easy to spot these, as these are raised lines in positions that are not supposed to be there on the actual car, so most of the times they are super easy to spot. Other times they are hidden pretty well, but you can still pick them out easily, as they are not supposed to be there, and as I said, they are mostly raised areas. So I firstly just used a sanding stick with a rougher side to get rid of most of it, and then later on I will sand it all smooth. Now in the meantime, after I had removed all of those mold lines, I moved on to removing those body panels that were not supposed to be there in order to fit that new body kit from Plamos. So firstly I modified the side skirts a bit. I had to cut that small lip on the bottom off. I firstly just took the panel line scriber through the panel line, made it a lot deeper and wider, and then took out a Scale Motorsport saw blade and sawed the rest of that lip off. The lip is now removed, so I cleaned up the cut line a bit with a sanding stick and then sanded it smooth with a sanding sponge from Tamiya. Now I repeated this same process on the other side, of course, and after removing this lip I test fit the new body kit, or in this case the side skirt, and it fit perfectly well into place and no more modifications were needed. So I moved on to the next part, and that is on the rear bumper. The small diffuser piece needed to be removed, so I again took out the panel line scriber, scribed that line first, enhanced a couple of lines with a normal knife in order to make it a lot easier to go with the scriber, and then I cut it out. Now I did not really have any footage of me removing it, but it's pretty much the same process on that side skirt, but then on the rear bumper, repeated the same way. So after removing all of those body pieces that are no longer supposed to be there, which will be replaced of course, I moved on to refining all of the panel lines around the body itself, just scribing them out with the panel line scriber from Yellow House Club. I have a link down in the description below where you can find their Facebook page and also their web shop through their Facebook page. So earlier on in the video I removed all of the mold lines with the sanding stick and a bit of a rough grit to get it done a lot quicker. Now of course this needs to be refined a bit more to remove most of those deep scratches, and the rest of the body also needed a nice scuff for the primer to stick to it of course. So I just took out some 600 grit sanding sponges from Tamiya and sanded the entire body nice and smooth, and also gave it a bit of a grip for the primer later on. The final modification I needed to do before I put the paint onto the body is drill a small hole in the place where the side mirror needs to be mounted to, and then also drill it on the other side for the other mirror as well. Drill a small hole in the underside of the mirror, put a small metal pin in it for it to keep in place a lot easier and not just rely on the glue, but also have a bit of a mechanical bond with a metal rod through it. With that final mod now done, I moved on to cleaning off the body, removing any of the loose or remaining dust, moved on to the primer booth, and just blew over it once more with some air, removing more of that loose or remaining dust. I found a small spot that still had some of the dust in the panel line, so I took out a brush and removed it. Blew over it with some air once more to remove even more of that stuff that flew around, and then started on priming those hard to reach, easy to forget spots, and a bit further on I will move on to just giving the rest of the body a general first coat of primer. The first coat went on nice and smooth. It had a good finish all round, and I didn't really see any imperfections whatsoever, so I could just let it dry for about 5 minutes and move on to the second coat just to build up a bit of primer so that later on in the second video I can start sanding it down a bit, making it super smooth for that base coat to go down on.